You're a conversation strategist, and I know a lot of people are going to be very curious as to what that is. For the people that are not familiar with that expertise, can you explain what you do?
I know when I put it in simple terms, I always say that my job is about helping smart people have simple conversations that make the world a better place. And I stumbled on it, and I actually came up with the term conversation strategist because actually there wasn't a blueprint or a list of a profession for me to say, oh, that's what it is. I had to stop and reflect and think, what is it that I'm actually doing? And so practically what it looks like is that I get invited by governments, by international organizations, and by businesses around the world to come and use the science of conversation to unlock strategy, to unlock policy, to be the bridge between the idea and the execution. And the only thing that actually enables that bridge and creates that dot connect between idea and execution is the conversation. It's about framing the questions that help us move to breakthrough thinking so that we can actually begin to implement. So I would moderate conversations that have impact on the world. So for example, the International Labour Organization is one of my big clients, and one of the big conversations that I've been helping the ILO have over the past 5 years or so is how do we ensure that the global labour market produces decent jobs for the billions of people in the world? How do we ensure that in 2020 we can say that we no longer, by the way, have 280 million people working in poverty, so they're employed, but they're still part of the working poor.
Yeah.
That's 280 million people in the world.
That's a lot.
And we have to translate the aspiration of wanting to get rid of this number into execution in different national policies around the world. So that's what I would do for governments and international organizations. And then for corporates, so it's interesting, I get called in almost like a secret weapon.
Yeah.
So it would be, you don't have to tell everybody that you're coming. It's just the top executive team or the global team, and they'll put the strategy in front of me and they'll say, how do we use the strategy so that it ignites the person that has to execute it at the ground level? So we begin to almost like unpack it and say, how would we land this so that the teams that have to deliver on this connect with the why, connect with the what, connect with the how. And so we begin to deconstruct strategy using the science of conversation. Now, when I went to university, there wasn't anything in the prospectus that described
what
this,
you're doing,
right? And so when people kept on asking me, what do you do? I actually realized it is the convergence of strategy and conversation, and hence I'm a conversation strategist.
And people have a misunderstanding, because the minute you are doing that, they like you're an MC or a program director.
Oh, yeah.
Which is exactly why I thought I'll ask. So you clarified that there is a difference.
And you know, it's such a brilliant question, and it's actually what I found is that it's a South African misunderstanding, if you will. The rest of the world seems to have figured out that there's different roles. In South Africa, we have, MCs, program directors, presenters, and then we have moderators, facilitators as well. But there is this idea of just a convergence of these roles. And until we take the time to actually educate the market, you almost cannot blame the market for thinking that. And so one has to be very deliberate about articulating and framing what it is that you're doing. So when I get a client who comes to me and says, Nozipho, won't you please MC? I take the time to say, let me help you understand why what I do is not MCing. And if you do want an MC, I can refer you to an MC, because there is a place and a role and there's value, but that is just not what I do.